Good morning, Mr. and Mrs. America. This is Corporal Tim Thornton from the Military Exchange Talk Show. Did you wake up today and say, I'm not living in the America that I grew up in? A 3% tax on tea eventually led to the American Revolution. Now you pay up to 70% of your earnings to a de facto corporate government. You are groped at the airport, surveilled on the street, spied upon in your own home, fed propaganda by the media, lied to by your representatives. Have your rights eroded, your currency devalued, and are we on the verge of an overt police state? Is this a WTF moment, and you're asking yourself, what happened to the home of the brave and the land of the free? Well, at the Military Exchange Talk Show, we address these issues and more. Current events, military topics, veteran right issues, and WTF moments. Welcome to the Military Exchange Talk Show, and I'm your host, Corporal Tim Thornton, and I'm here tonight with Major McClure from the Civil Air Patrol in Canandaigua, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his outfit and how, if you have a youngster that would like to join the Civil Air Patrol, just how they can do that. Major, how are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Thank you. Major, I hate to ask you this because I should know. Your first name?
Jim.
Jim, could you tell us a little bit about your organization?
Yeah, I wrote down a whole bunch of notes and promptly forgot to bring them tonight. Rushed here from work. I'm going to cover a little bit of history, Civil Air Patrol, what we do now, our 3 missions, cadet programs, emergency services, and aerospace education. I'll hit on the first thing you mentioned, cadets joining. Our cadets can join anytime from age 12 and remain a cadet all the way up to age 18 or 21 if they choose to stay in college. Some of them at that point then choose to transition. They joke about it, say they've gone to the dark side if they join the senior members. A lot of them, after they've gone through the cadet program, kind of like anybody who has kids grow up, they get jobs, they go to school, or a lot of them enlist. Been a history of those from our squadron. But like your own kids, once they move away, they never call, they never write, we never see them again. Some come back to visit and give us stories. Some of them we stay in touch with, email, but pretty simple. Just to make sure they're comfortable with the program, we'd like them to come visit with their parents and observe 3 of our meetings before they commit to paying the membership fee and filling out the paperwork. Some of them show up, and we had one guy thought he wanted to do it because he heard we have airplanes. But as soon as he heard that to wear the uniform he'd have to cut his hair, he was all out of that. He didn't want to...
That was a cadet?
Yeah, a young kid. But enjoyed his rock and roll look. Didn't think maybe he'd be required to trim his hair to fit the uniform.
And you also have the survival side of it?
Yeah, that's one of the 3 missions I mentioned. Emergency services. We do search and rescue, disaster relief, in some cases even flying emergency medical supplies in and out of some area that's been hard hit. Civil Air Patrol gets activated a lot down in the Gulf Coast states after the hurricanes. When the roads are down, the power is down, bridges might be out, but if there's an airfield they can get into, they can fly in emergency medical supplies. Not so much like an ambulance service, that they don't fly wounded people much, but that's not one of the common things they do. Like I said, I had a whole bunch of notes and promptly forgot them.
The 3rd mission?
3rd mission, aerospace education. We go to aerospace education conferences where I know there's a emphasis in schools now for, what do they call it? Math, science, and there's an acronym they use. Engineering. So we provide like aerospace books, histories of aviation pioneers, satellites, and stuff for teachers. And there's a program where, for a science teacher, they get a whole kit where they do like hands-on learning for kids all about flying and space, and not quite up to like doing model rockets, but maybe building a little miniature wind tunnel. Things like building a little miniature hovercraft with a balloon, and then it'll fly across your desk. Once schools have participated in that, they get a plaque from Civil Air Patrol. It looks very pretty. The AEX award. Teachers can display in their classrooms. The cadet programs, some people might worry, well, kind of like the kid who thought he didn't have to cut his hair. There's no military requirement. For the seniors, military experience is not required, but it's helpful.
Honey, how many times do I have to move your old army bag? It's taking up too much room in the closet.
It's a duffel bag. It's full of my old uniforms.
And are you going to wear them again?
Yeah, maybe. Someday.
Uh-huh. And what size do you wear now?
Whatever.
Honey, why don't you take them to Military Mike's? You're certainly there enough.
It's Iron Mike's, and at least he doesn't make comments about my weight.
Bring your old military gear down to Iron Mike's Military Exchange. They'll turn your old uniforms, gear, and military collectibles into cash. So if you drug it back from overseas and it doesn't fit your motif, we want it. Iron Mike's wants your Class A's, Alphas, Camis, Fatigues, Utilities, Digis. We want your Deuce gear, Molly gear, Alice gear, Web gear. Bring in your Poly Pro, new boots, used boots. Heck, if it's green, camouflaged, or digital, we want it. Give it a good home. Used, pre-enjoyed. Iron Mike's has a bin for it. Iron Mike's buys, sells, and trades. Iron Mike's Military Exchange, located in Canandaigua, New York. Check out all their newly acquired items at militaryexchange.co.
Back to that there's no military requirement. That the cadets might refer to their experience in CAP as like, it's a little bit like Boy Scouts. We all know that kids growing up these days have so many things to do, so many different distractions. Between school, some of them are in sports, some in band, other extracurricular activities. So they're not penalized if they don't show up for every meeting. It's to their benefit.
But there is like a military culture.
There is.
In the Civil Air Patrol.
Right.
Rank structure.
They learn the whole chain of command, and the cadets can promote, there's a written test. You spend enough time preaching from the chapel, you would understand one of the squadron jobs we have is chaplain. And if there's not a chaplain at every squadron, then there's at least one in our region or state or group to cover. So the cadets have to get a moral leadership class, an aerospace class, pass a PT test that's graded the higher rank, the faster you have to run, the more push-ups you have to do. Where was I going with that? So, right, the rank structure. So they can promote through the airman and NCO ranks once every 2 months, as long as they get the written aerospace test, a leadership test, moral leadership, and PT. And we have a revolving schedule every month, so we're doing one of those every week. Sometimes if we have more than 4 weeks in a month, we do something fun. Sometimes we've even gone bowling. So they learn the chain of command. So it's military service, not a requirement, but a lot of the branches recognize that if they've put in their time, they already know how to wear the uniform, they know how to salute, they know customs courtesies. If a cadet reaches the rank of cadet lieutenant and then enlists, they often come out of basic training with one more stripe than everybody else. And I think they even do that for Eagle Scouts. So with another stripe and another $400 a month pay raise, branches reward them for their time they've put in what they've learned. Several of our cadets, my daughter went through the program, got to the rank of cadet lieutenant, went to the Air Force, came out of basic, not only with the extra stripe, but something that even starts even before graduation. Some of their leadership skills they've learned, their DIs, their leadership recognizes that. Some of them get a rope even before graduation. I forget which side it goes on, but so they've already been put in leadership roles in basic training before they even graduate there.
And they leave to go to the Air Force with that rope on?
No, that happens in basic.
In basic.
Some of them get that.
Kind of like a platoon guide or something?
Yes, stuff like that. But
nice.
They recognize that.
Well, it all goes on their
service record.
Service record.
Sure.
Thanks. I couldn't remember the service record. So, yeah, I don't know if you know this, but I'm wearing this hat. I was also, as anybody at home knows, I was in the Army. When I wasn't in the Army, I was in the reserves. When I didn't do that, I did little over a year at the Dallas Air Naval Base Security Police. So Air National Guard, I was a sergeant. And then I left there, they laughed at me, and I joined the Marines, and they signed off on my paperwork. And then when I was in the Marines, I'd say a good 2.5 years. Everybody knew me pretty well in the Marines. And my dad sent me this letter, said the Air Force expects you to come back and discharge, and they're demanding that you report in. And I said, well, I'm in the Marines, I'm at Camp Lejeune. He goes, I've called them. They're telling me you got to report in. So I went down to the company office and I said, listen, First Sergeant, Captain, Gunny, here you go. Here's my Air Force paperwork. I'm here illegally. I was in the Air Force. I'm obviously AWOL. It's right here. You have to kick me out of the Marines and put me back in the Air Force. And they laughed, and they laughed. They said, Thornton, you got more than a Christmas goose. And they laughed. They go, get out of here. And I told my dad, he goes, I'll fix it. Somehow, I'll fix it if I have to go to Syracuse myself. And I guess he fixed it, made them understand that it's the Air Force guy. Now get this, down in Dallas, when I wanted to get out of the Air National Guard, and I told the guy, we're sitting at a desk, Texas Air National Guard, in his blues like you are, he kicks his foot up, and he's wearing black cowboy boots. That's Texas. You got to give it to Texas. In uniform. He's allowed to. I noticed that. I was like, oh, and I'm leaving this place? How cool is this place? He goes, if you want to join the Corps and leave us, he goes, good luck to you, son. And I remember he signed off. So anyways, I was okay. And it didn't get me out of the Marines. But just so people that know, that's why I'm wearing a hat. I was security police for a little while also. So, now, Jim, tell us about the all the community things that they do with the Civil Air Patrol. I know you're constantly at the air show.
That's a big thing. Anybody who's an aircraft aviation history junkie would like the job we have. I say job, it's more of a love affair. We don't get paid for anything we do in Civil Air Patrol. We joke that CAP stands for come and pay. Yep, we do crowd safety at the Rochester Air Show, the Geneseo Air Show. A new one for me this year, we've been invited to go to the Niagara Air Force Reserve Base when the Thunderbirds come there. So
nice.
In working there, we don't have to pay an admission, and we have, I can't exactly call it crowd control, more concerned about crowd safety. We work with the aircraft marshalers when they're directing the planes around, and we sometimes have a schedule that we know which planes are going to be moving next, when they're going to crank engines, which taxiway they're going to use, so we know to keep people off that. We don't want anybody in the front of spinning propellers. And usually when the show is over, cadets, even some of the senior members, love talking to the pilots. There's the group that comes from the Canadian Warplane Heritage Museum to Geneseo every year. Some of those guys we know on a first-name basis, and it's like a family reunion. We only get to see them at Geneseo, but it's always a good time. And they always have high praise for the job our cadets are out there doing, working on the flight line. Sometimes it's kind of thankless. people don't understand, well, I want to go over there and look at that plane, but on an active taxiway, can't have you crossing there right now. It's sometimes hot. Sometimes you're out there in the weather. We have people going around with ice water, keep everybody refreshed. We don't want anybody falling over. And we're looking out for each other and for the crowd. There have been situations where we saw some guy, his wife's trying to help hold him up, and he's over and collapsed under a plane, just looking for some shade. And turns out he needed some medical help. We can get on the radios because we have somebody else over to talk to EMTs and firemen working at the show, and they were able to come over and take care of them. It's a common thing you see at air shows. The Rochester Air Show a couple of years ago, they had 11 people fainting, just standing in line to get out at the end of the show. People forget you're out there, it's hot, dehydrating, so we're looking out for that.
Yeah, I've had some of your guys come in and buy Camelbacks.
Oh, yeah.
And I've watched them work the gates, and I'll tell you, they're good at it. I remember I kind of walked up to one, and they were like, introduced themselves. They told me where the real entrance was. I wasn't getting through that gate. No.
You should have had the Air Force Security Police hat on. That would have helped.
So tell us a little bit how people can find you. And
Okay, good point. Locally, we have a website for our squadron. It's ny212.org. Civil Air Patrol National website is gocivilairpatrol.com. You could look me up on my Facebook page, James A. McClure. I think there's a picture of me in this uniform right there.
Very smart looking, by the way.
Oh, thank you. For those of you who can't see radio,
That's right.
Tim's vision is clouded a little tonight, but yeah, okay.
If you do want to see Major McClure, you can go to our website, our YouTube page at the Military Exchange Talk Show, and you'll see the video of this interview.
Thank you.
So all you cadets at home, if you want to make sure the Major's got his uniform correct, that's how you can tell.
That's no joke.
I'm sure they'll call you
for
out.
all the training that they go through to make sure their uniform is right. They let me know if I'm out of regs, if the mustache is looking too bushy, if the hair is touching the ears. They will keep me straight, and I appreciate that. Them holding me to as high a standard as we expect of them.
That's good.
They're great about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you know how everybody gets a hold of you. Any last thing?
Yeah, the website, Facebook. I forget the exact nomenclature, but I know I can get it through my own Facebook page. Yes, our squadron is on Facebook with some pictures of some of the training we've done. In a couple weeks, we're going to go up to Cutler Boy Scout Camp. It's down on Gulick Road in Naples. It's basically just the backside, one valley over from the ski center. And it's usually very snowy in March up there, this winter particularly. We do some of the search and rescue training up there. Our ES officer likes to say that we train for actual conditions, in that people don't just choose to get lost, planes just don't choose to go missing when it's 85 and sunny. So we specifically go out to let them know if they were called out on a mission, this is the weather, you got to learn to deal with the gear, how to move as a group through the snow. Some of the New York State search and rescue dogs come up. One of the checklist items that everybody has to do has to move with a search dog. So that's usually everybody's favorite time. Some of the dogs that keep coming back, we know by first name. And I think there's a big group picture of us and the search dogs on the website, standing around the snow up there at Cutler.
When you hear the phrase, boots on the ground, that phrase means our men and women that are in the American Armed Forces. And that means they're ready to fight. They wear the very best gear America has to offer. I'm talking the very best in leather, Gore-Tex, Thinsulate, 3-layer Vibram soles, Nomex, side zippers, and stitching. Quality that the civilian market can't even come close to offering. When you say quality, you want U.S. government issue. Iron Mike's is the leading distributor for military government contractors. They offer jump boots, Mickey boots, jungle boots, SWAT boots, sniper boots, steel toe, Navy deck boots, and Marine Corps and Army desert boots. Corafram low quarter shoes, mucklucks, extreme cold weather, and lightweight tactical boots in 6, 8, and 10 inches. Iron Mike's takes trade-ins of all your old military boots. Iron Mike's is located at 2485 State Route 332 in Canandaigua. Check us out online at ironmikes.co.
Of course, a lot of the emergency services stuff our air crews do. More recently, Hurricane Irene and Hurricane Sandy, there were several people from Rochester went with our aircraft to go fly photography missions over Long Island, New Jersey, in part because roads and bridges messed up, people not able to get around. They were able to come back with real-time photo information and tell Department of Transportation, hey, your bridge is out on the county road, you need to get somebody out there. Or power lines are down, arcing over here, and that's some of the stuff they've done close to home. Other missions, you remember the BP oil spill? They were able to go fly every day and take a large composite picture, a picture every 3 minutes as they fly along, to get an idea where the oil spills were, to tell commercial shipping to stay out of there, tell the fisheries to stay out of there, and to tell where the oil booms go soak up the oil. That's some of the air crew stuff. I'm just getting started in that, mostly been ground pounder, in the ground search and rescue stuff.
That's great, though. Definitely get your share of experience.
We do.
In the Civil Air Patrol. Well, thanks again, Major McClure.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Join the Civil Air Patrol. What's the age group?
They can start as young as 12.
And go up to 21.
As a cadets, if they're staying in college. But you and I are not too old. You transition to the dark side. Speaking of not too old, if you want to join, I'm just going to use you as an example. I know you're fond of the beard. If you didn't want to get rid of the beard, didn't want to do the grooming, we have alternatives for that. We have some uniforms as simple as the golf shirt.
Oh, look at that. Like an auxiliary.
Navy blue golf shirt with the CAP seal. They get embroidered with name and rank right on them. And if you don't meet the height weight standards, I've been there. I used to be much bigger.
Oh, you've slimmed down. I know.
Lost some weight so I could fit in this uniform.
You look good.
Thank you. And so even we have, for the field work, there's the Woodland BDU uniform. For when I was larger, the navy blue BDUs looks more like a Coast Guard uniform. And if you chose to keep the beard, you could wear that uniform.
Well, that's all right. All right, great. We're going to wrap it up. Thank you very much,
We're done.
Major. And that's the Civil Air Patrol. Thank you.